Right, hello everybody. Can you all hear me? Okay, marvellous. So, hello and welcome to this session, everything you want to know about IIIF, but we're afraid to ask. My name's Tristan Roddis. I work for an agency in the UK called CogApp. We've done quite a few IIIF implementations now, and I'm a great fan, as you may have spotted. So what I thought I'd do is organise this session in which we really want to give you the voice and give you the chance to ask the questions that you want to know about IIIF. So before we start, just to say, no question is too stupid. I'm keen to hear from people who are completely new to this. Please don't, this is meant to be a forum for asking whatever it is that you want to know about. And I fully expect that there will be all spectrum of people, from those who don't know anything about it all. Perhaps I'll say it is the International Image Interoperability Framework, right up to those who have been using it for years. So before we start, could I ask all those who have actually done something with IIIF, who's done some implementation, to put your hands up, please? Right. So here we go. So these are the embedded experts amongst you. And that was going to happen. So they're all going to self-identify by wearing a IIIF sticker. Anybody else? Any other people implemented IIIF? Okay, so these people, they will also be on hand to help answer all of your questions. So anyway, back to the format. What we're going to do is something called Lean Coffee, and the idea it's an agendaless meeting format. So what I'm going to ask all of you to do now is to write down between 0 and 3 questions that you want to have answered about IIIF. So you should all have stickies and a pen, something to write on them. If you don't, there's more over on that table. There's more up the front here. So please take a moment to write down any of your burning questions. So between 0 and 3 questions. And once you have those, please do come up to the front and place them on this wall here. So we're going to start off by creating a sea of questions, and then we're going to order them.
Could we just pass them forward?
Yes.
That isn't a crazy idea.
That's not a crazy idea. That's a good idea. Yeah, marvelous. My beautiful assistant Gavin, also from CogApp, will come and help gather up questions, and we'll put them on the wall.
Yeah, let's minimise.
Let's minimise. You are going to have to move, but not just yet.
So when you've got your post-its, just wave them around. One of us will grab them.
Any post-its ready? Right.
I'm doing a sort of as we go.
Go on.
Did you concede that one?
No, that was someone else put that in there. My down system.
How'd you get that job? Sorry. This is the whole session is posting to the wall.
Yeah.
Hey, Tristan, 4 or 5 people. 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, maybe we have more interest.
We
than I thought.
underestimated.
Who's there?
Okay.
Well, Marla said she might come back, but she's not back. So.
Thank you. TE. Yeah, there's more post-its over here.
There is. Oh, where do I start stuff like that? Why don't? Is that everything now? You'll see it. Why don't you give those to me? Okay.
There's more here.
Thank you. That's fine. I can do the rest. You tell
Okay.
everyone what's next.
Fine. Any more questions? Last call for questions. Well, I have to use the horn to signal moving from one phase to another. So, Gavin, we got the last question, visual search. So, the great news is we have lots of questions. When did we close? I don't know, about 20 or so. So what we're going to do is now you're going to decide which questions we're going to tackle. So what you need to do is all come up here. That's just maybe we could phase this. So you know, those seated in rows 1 to 5, please come forward now. Bring a pen, and you have up to 3 votes. So you can make 3 marks on the post-its. You could put all your eggs in one basket. You can divide them between 3. So please come up. You can vote for your own, absolutely, yes. So you've got 3 votes. Have a look at what the questions are. And then when you have voted, please return to your seats. Those at the back, please be patient. You'll get your turn. You have 3 votes. Make a tally on.
They are groups. Some commonalities, but you can see that there's some small groups.
Okay, so once you've done it, give me the pens and I'll recycle them to people in there.
There's some loads of duplicates of ones that I can't get at.
Okay.
You're taller, you can read them.
Image server.
Okay, I got it. How do I integrate with Drupal? I don't know what that means. How do musicians lag behind libraries?
Are you going to read them all out loud? Anyone need a pen?
There's a big long line of what is it kind of ones. So we've tried to group these a bit. So they'll ones that are the same will be on top of each other. Yeah, I mean, come round. It's not lunch.
Yeah.
Just like push each other out the way wherever you need.
Exactly. So, does anybody incoming need a pen?
Can you remember the secret code? The MCN 20.
Museum 20.
No, the hashtag code for this. It's T38. It's like a Paralympic. You had it open a minute ago.
That's the session code 2050.
T7, T32.
Oh,
no,
it's
no,
separate.
T38.
It was 38.
Oh, I thought they were just using the session code.
I mean, mostly.
It looks like an office building.
Okay, I've just placed it on the table there, thank you.
Oh, there is. Yeah. You know, where it's like they're in the elevator, each one opens like an opera, it's cool, it's, you know, a western, but yeah, a bunch of
Well, I mean, that may not be the biggest challenge. Hi.
Okay, so people at the back, please do come forward. People at the back, please come forward and join in.
I'm just here to tell you that, given that you have such a tiny little bit of time, and we have another session tomorrow at 11, triple IF.
Yes. Oh yeah, let's
I'll
advertise that.
Just sit, no, not advertise it, just if you want to come and pull in the stuff tomorrow.
So unfortunately, I'm double booked in another session.
So you're
that
out
Chris,
tomorrow.
yeah.
Okay.
Gavin will be able to attend, but yeah.
Just so that people continue on.
Yeah. And just to say, this is obviously it's going to be a very short session. Unfortunately, I did ask for an hour, but unfortunately, only got half an hour. So, with just say there is obviously other IIIF things happening. So there is a panel session tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, I think. So if you're interested, it would be a good place to follow up. Obviously, I'm happy to talk afterwards. I'm going to stay on after the break as well. So unanswered questions, don't feel that you need to go away empty-handed. You can always collar me at any time. And I've got some of my business cards over there as well. I'm happy to answer questions via email and so forth. So is this the last of the last?
Do we have any that are clear? Sort of
Yeah,
orders?
Gavin,
We're
who,
gonna find
do
out.
you want to have a
That-
look?
That's what I'm here for. I count the dots.
Well, I'm just wondering if we can sort of. Yeah.
Gavin's a dot counter.
And any that we don't get to today, Tristan's going to write a blog post about. So they will all get answered in time.
So, Gav, can we see a clear winner?
That's what I'm trying to do.
There's a lot of how do I get started?
Yeah, where do I start? How do I do this?
So there's dams looks like
Dams is one.
dams are just about wins out. Depending on where these
Okay, well, I'll tell you what we'll do is the how to get started. So we take the how to get started.
No, dams has got more votes. Has it? I need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How do I start with?
How do I start? Okay, we have a winner. We have the first question. And the first question is going to be, how do I get started? So, the good news is somebody else I've noticed has just answered this for me. So on the main IIIF site, IIIF.io, there is a prominent link there, learn how to get started. So effectively, IIIF is it's a suite of currently 4 different specifications. So these are called APIs, application programming interfaces, and these tell software makers what they have to do in order to be able to present their images and the metadata online. So just quickly, there are the image API. This is by far the most popular and, to my mind, the best API. This effectively allows you to serve dynamic images. So instead of just building out a load of derivatives from your collection and having them fixed at certain sizes, you can request the sizes on the fly, but also crucially tiles of those images, which means that you can do things like implement zoomable viewers extremely easily. Second one is the IIIF Presentation API, and this allows you to describe the metadata that describes one or more images. So this might be used, for example, to link a series of images that all belong together in the same manuscript or book, or link images that are different views of the same artwork, visible light and raking light and X-ray and so forth. And then there's 2 relatively new and less used ones, the Authentication API, which is about restricting access to content, and the search API, which is about searching within the annotations made on any given image. And so the most common use case for this would be something like searching within the OCR text of an entire book in order to hit the exact pages that the images that text features on. So in terms of how you get started, effectively the answer depends on which of these you are going to implement, but in general, the image API is the first and the key to all of this. The presentation API is probably then also important depending on what your use cases are. Effectively, to implement the image API, what you need is a server that serves that can return the images in the correct format. And this is where the step one, deploy an image server. So there are currently, I think, maybe 3 or 4 image servers that are open source and available to do this. So there's Roddis. IIIF image is probably the most widely used. And what these do is they take a master image, so you upload the high resolution master image for your for the image, and then they can take these and dynamically convert it into JPEG images purely by changing the address in the browser window. So in terms of getting started, you will need an image server, and then you will need images to be prepared in the right format. And currently, there are 2 widely supported formats. One is OpenJPEG, and the other is one is JPEG 2000, and the other is pyramidal TIFFs. And these are both pyramidal formats that mean that you can very quickly and easily request just regions of an image. So, who has any other questions about how to get started? Does this answer the image API? You need effectively a server, and you need a whole load of images in the right format.
You mentioned requesting derivatives. Can you get crops as well as just resized images?
Yes, absolutely. You can get crops and resize and at any zoom level purely by changing the URL parameters. So this probably brings us on to the second most popular is.
There's another related one in this, which is what's your 30-second elevator pitch for IIIF?
Oh, okay. So this is more about promotion of IIIF. 30 seconds. Time me, Gavin. So I would say that IIIF is a way to unshackle your images. It's a way to reuse your images and repurpose them online with minimal effort. So once they're in the correct format and being served via IIIF, then you can do all sorts of uses of them without any further technical work. And it makes things that are hard, such as zoomable viewers, such as book turning, page turning applications, collections of images, it makes those easy because you can use other people's software to do that instead of having to write your own.
Time's up. Okay, the next question is, so there's 3 post-its here with lots of ticks and crosses about dams. So how can my dam system help with this? What can you do in your dam to stage content for IIIF? And in what ways could digital asset management systems take advantage of IIIF technologies?
So this is a very good question, and it's not one that I know everything about. So I'm going to start
did
talking.
Did everyone hear me saying what the questions were?
Yeah.
Just
So
say
the
them
questions
again
are
so that-
effectively how can you use your dam system to provide IIIF compatible content, roughly speaking. So I'm going to start with this, and then I'm going to throw it out to some of the stickered IIIF representatives here to add to it. Effectively, as I mentioned in the sort of how to get started, a key thing is preparing the images in the right format. So at the very least, what you would want your dams to be able to do is to export images in either JPEG 2000 format or pyramidal TIFF format. And from that point on, it's fairly trivial to get a server set up. You just need to export from your dams, get that onto the file system of one of these back-end servers, such as Roddis or IIIF image, and then you have a fully functioning IIIF system. Now, in practice, that's going to be a bit harder because you obviously need to deal with workflow, and you need to make sure that only the right kind of images get transferred and put online. You need to make sure that new images that are added to the system get through and so on. But so in a way, that's probably the most common starting point, and one that I hope a lot of dams vendors will be able to do. So even if they can't export directly to these two formats, they could export to something that then a simple command line tool would be able to bulk convert their output high-res TIFFs to pyramidal TIFFs, for example. There are a small but growing number of DAM systems that natively do support IIIF. So the only one I'm certain of is one called Lunar Imaging, and they will directly serve IIIF native images. So this is, again, a great thing in that you don't have to worry about any of the hardware. They effectively host the solution, and it provides IIIF image API support out of the box. There was also recently, so earlier this year, part of the museum's working group in IIIF sent an open letter to DAMS vendors, so I think they picked all the big DAMS vendors used by museums, in which they effectively said, we, the undersigned, would like you to natively support IIIF. So I would hope that, at the very least, most DAMS vendors are aware that this is something that there's a large community of people who would like it to see it. So at this point, I'd like to say any stickered person or not who knows more about using DAMS or IIIF, please chime in. Go at the back, David, or?
I don't have anything to add except just I want to reinforce that last point. Talk to your software vendors and tell them about the value of IIIF and that you really want that functionality in your software so you don't have to do the work yourself. And just buy their product. When you get it, and we're all happier for it.
Yep, there we go, exactly. Ask them nicely, cajole, threaten, do all the rest. So any other points about DAMS? So David at the back.
The other point is that if your DAMs already can serve up arbitrary image sizes, what if you can deliver conditions that take the format that your DAMs currently gives you and translates it, at least the image API, into IIIF format? You don't need to do the export and have an entirely new image server, just something that will translate the URL format from what IIIF expects to what your current DAMs API expects.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So for those who didn't hear it, there is a way to effectively just do some rewriting, which will mean that the output of current DAM systems becomes compatible with IIIF, even if they don't natively support that. Any other points, Mark?
For the DAMS vendors, please talk to me or talk to anybody else in the IIIF community if you are serious. We're still figuring out how to best incorporate vendors into the space, but at least in the library and archive sector, OCLC's content VM now has support for IIIF image API and presentation API. So and they've gotten involved in the community. So we are very much interested in having vendors be part of the conversation and helping us get the community to build out capacity. So talk to me afterwards.
Okay, I think we're going to have to move on, I'm afraid, to get some more images.
So
So
probably the
questions.
last one. Show me fun or creative uses of IIIF. Can you give me examples of creative or artistic uses of IIIF? Is there a great site with IIIF demos for end users?
it's like you played into my hands.
That is definitely your handwriting.
It's not. they were plants. So the question, examples and demos, what I would say, there is one site online, Awesome IIIF, and this is it's a moderated list of interesting, exciting things to do with IIIF. So if you search for Awesome IIIF, you'll find a lot of things collated in one place, and a lot of these are the normal things you want to know about. So what are the image viewers that work with this? What are the tools and so on? But then fun, there's a whole experiments and fun section, and we can see there's a whole load of these here. There's also, I have a presentation here that I've done as a lightning talk several times, which is fun with IIIF. And you can see there's lots of different examples where people have been doing fun and exciting things that aren't just, here we go, here's another example of my stuff loaded up in Mirador or Universal Viewer, and so forth. So if you, these are also available as links in the IIIF Awesome, so you can look at each of these individual examples, or like I say, I've got a slide deck that combines those in several links, and I'll put that out on Twitter as well, so you can see. Gavin, have we got another question?
Oh, I don't know. Is that the end of the fun bit?
Well, is anybody else want to make any points about fun?
Well, can you just summarize the kinds of things or experiences or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like imagine you're explaining to an educator
Yeah.
why they might be interested in working with their digital department in finding applications for them. Just one or two. You can just describe them.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to have a look as an example here.
Tristan, Jeff
Yep.
had something too, if you want to keep
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
I echo what Tristan said earlier in that the image API is awesome and the best API by far. The way I categorize the image API is it's my absolute favorite pair of digital scissors ever. So think about digital collaging with images. You can do that with the image API and go to tabs, slicing up people's images and recollaging them. Any way you want. Digital scissors.
Okay, I'm writing that down, Jeff.
Yeah, so sorry, I was trying to find an example, just one that I found this morning, which is a real-world application from the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, where they're using IIIF to create a very simple overlay that allows you to flip between looking at the X-ray view of, in their case, so a fashion exhibit that they had, and the normal photographs of that. So I'd echo what Jeff was saying, is that it effectively makes it very easy to work with your images, and I'd almost turn that around and say, okay, what the museum educators want to do to create compelling interfaces, and then to look at the examples that are out there. There's a lot of open source code that does similar things, and then it can obviously be reworked to go with your organizational style. So effectively the point is there are a lot of open source tools out there that will just work out of the box and make it very easy, but they're also very easy to customize and enhance to actually add that custom experience that you want. And sorry, just quickly on that note, what I just thought I do have some examples here where we did some experience with storytelling with IIIF, and here you would then be, you can take images and you can take the annotations of those images and turn it into an interactive viewer. So here's a very simple demo where we're going through and telling a story that's just appearing underneath it. And this is completely unstyled, but as an example of an interaction where you can guide visitors on a story about a given painting or image, any image, but you can also allow them to freely move and zoom and pan and explore it on their own and at their own pace. So there's lots of different variants of this, but the key idea is anything involving text and images, yes, you can very easily do this.
And that was exported as a video file, because it's on Vimeo.
Yes, that's right, but I mean, I could show you the example of this in action would be something like this. So here, whoops, oh no, sorry, this is, this is one where we actually, this was using text to speech, I think, so we probably don't want that. So here's the example. We start the story, we go to next, and it focuses on one region. You go next, it talks about another region, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, I as a user could then decide to go over and start looking at other areas of the painting before then resuming the narrative. So, this is a very simple idea, but it's the kind of thing that's it's very easy to do with IIIF, and you can obviously work this up to work with your own museum's content and create something that's a lot more beautiful than that, which is just dumped on screen. Really.
Right. It's like being able to do After Effects, Ken Burns stuff.
Yes, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, zooming, panning, cropping all becomes a very trivial operation, and so it's a case of, okay, well, what do you want to add to that to actually create useful visitor experiences? So we have reached the end of the session, but we're going into break now. So what I say is that anyone who wants to leave, do feel free, but I suggest we stay on and carry on going through. I'm happy to keep on going through, but obviously, if you want coffee, please do feel free to go. Gavin, what's the next question?
The next one. What do we need to know about resources required to implement IIIF? So resources, time and skill set. And what are some good IIIF resources / tutorials?
So I'll take the second question first. Is I think the first place to start would be to looking at the IIIF site and this how to get started guide. I think a key thing is that every organisation differs. Every institution has something different going on, and you will have your own very specific questions that often aren't covered in any one-size-fits-all tutorial. And what I would say is that this is a key thing about IIIF, as well as specifications. The real underpinnings of it is the community. It has a very active community and growing community, and all sorts of different ways to get involved. So what I would say is, if you can't find an exact tutorial that shows you what you need to do, the best thing to do is actually probably to start with asking on the IIIF discussion list. Mark.
There are a couple of IIIF workshops that have openly available content.
Mm-hmm.
So one is Jason Ronaldo from North Carolina State University has written and given a couple workshops, and we'll make sure they show up in the awesome list for other resources. There are workshops out there. We've given workshops at any number of conferences, including museum conferences. And if you would like to see one, or you would like to see a developer-focused session, please, again, reach out to the Austin community and develop.
Yeah. Any other points about? Oh, so okay. So that's the how to find the resources. So resources to help with implementation or understanding, and the summary is either yes, there are things that you can find already out there, and often linked from this IIIF awesome list, which tries to categorize these kinds of things. Failing that, asking on the mailing list. People are friendly, people are responsive. You can easily ask there and get direct pointers to your particular question. In terms of resources required, I'd probably categorize it as sort of, at the moment, again, it depends entirely on your institution. If you're lucky enough to say have a DAMS vendor that already supports it, that's great. You've got rid of one whole level of worry in that you don't have to surface these things yourself. All you have to do is worry about how to consume them, which is a whole lot easier. And all you need is a developer who's minimally skilled in JavaScript, for example, to embed a nice OpenSeaDragon zoomable view in any of the web pages. In terms for if you want to actually run your own image servers, then I would say you will need IT skills for somebody who is able to sort of build out and maintain a Linux machine running software that comes as a package or may have to be compiled from source. So it's the kind of thing of if they can run web servers, they can run these image servers, but would obviously need to learn how to do that. And then the final thing would be about the skills required to actually present your manifests online. So a lot of the talk so far has been about the image APIs, and this you do need special server software for. For the presentation API, the good news is there's nothing special required. It's the presentation API effectively involves just surfacing a JSON file that describes your collections of images. And so for that, it would be a case of having somebody who understands JSON as a format and who can read through and make sense of this specification in order to be able to effectively then provide a JSON file per groups of resource that describes the images, and then from that point, this unlocks the next piece of the puzzle and reusing existing software, where effectively you can do things like load it into a viewer. So this is an example of universal viewer, and you can see here on the left a series of images and sort of the navigation technique of moving through each page. These are then, each page is then zoomable and so forth. And then another example would be Mirador, where again a very similar interface, but in this case we've got an example of a side-by-side view actually comparing two different artworks side by side. In both of these cases, all that has happened is an institution has created a JSON file that represents these series of portraits by Van Gogh, and another organization has created another JSON file that represents another series of portraits. And once those JSON files are published, then you can effectively reuse existing software just by telling them to load up one of those files at a time. Does that answer the question about resources and skills? Is there anything unclear?
There's a possibly related question that you may or may not have answered, but it's the next most popular one. What does it take to set up a IIIF server?
So this would be, I think, the first part of that of you generally need to have some server software running, so Roddis or IIP image, and then it needs, on its file system, it needs to have a whole load of high-resolution image files in JPEG 2000 or pyramidal TIFF format is the most common way to do it. Mark?
I want to emphasize this as an option because there was a specific question about level 0 that I saw. It's like,
Yes.
so there is a way to basically provide access to implement a IIIF image server, whereas you just have a set of static files that are being served up by a web server. It is not the most flexible option because you then lose the ability to crop and arbitrarily rotate images, but it is a path forward. It is one that a lot of institutions have used to build out a proof of concept. So that's one of the levels of compliance that's defined by the image API as a specification. So if you're looking to experiment, it's a good option to sort of be able to make sure that you understand the concepts behind it.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. So this level 0 support, the good news about that is your technical requirements go way down. You don't need to be running your own server with specialist software on it. You can literally host all of these things on an Amazon S3 bucket, and that's a trivial operation to set up and pay for and maintain. There are, again, examples of software tools that will pre-generate, that will take a high-res image as input, turn it into tiles, and then these can be uploaded to the web server of your choice. So there is an even easier way to do this, or it needs less technical skills there. So yes.
I was going to say, is there even a kind of a -1 level? I think that it would really benefit since all these other people who have done all this and have exposed so much stuff, you can just work with their manifests and learn a lot by creating your own, and you don't have to worry at all about your images. A lot of people, that's not interesting. They do a lot of the other people's stuff, and you don't have any of that.
Yes, so that's a very good point, that you can also benefit from IIIF without ever having published anything yourself in IIIF. And there are tools, for example, the Bodleian Library in Oxford has what they call digital manuscripts toolkit, in which there's a very easy drag and drop interface to create your own manifest. So, for example, if you already found a source of IIIF compatible images that you're interested in, then you can actually go and create a manifest just by dragging and dropping and adding your own captions, which you can then publish very easily because, like I say, they're just a JSON file. It can sit on any web server anywhere, and then those can be loaded up into these viewers. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan of that idea of custom manifests, of almost throwaway manifests. You create one for one, lecture series you're giving, or anything like that, and then you can use those and disseminate those without ever having to actually own or host any of the images themselves. Yes.
If anyone's built, treated model at this point for any of the more common CMS systems at this point?
Sure. So the question is, are there any modules for common CMSs? There's one that we at Cogat recently reinvigorated, which is a plugin for Drupal, and that will effectively allow the embedding of IIIF images within arbitrary Drupal content. So you can build up a content type and add in images, and then you can theme those and display them as you like. So that's something we haven't. It's probably, I would say, it's sort of beta quality. We're interested to know how people will use this. But so in answer to that, in terms of embedding images, then yes, there is a Drupal module available, but it's also often fairly trivial to be able to do that as well. It's if you just need to manage a way to allow content editors to provide a link to a given IIIF endpoint, and then a viewer can just be loaded up with that. In terms of exposing images from common content management systems, I don't believe anything exists yet, but I'd love to be proved wrong. Yes, sorry, no, that's true. Yes, so Omeka actually does have has excellent IIIF support, both in terms of importing from IIIF resources and also publishing out as well. So I would say if this is a key requirement to mix content management with IIIF images, then certainly investigate Omeka as a starting point. Gavin, what other questions have we got?
We've got 4 minutes till someone's going to come and wrestle us out.
Okay.
Can someone explain manifests?
Right. Yes. So let me see if I can find a manifest. So I think this. So here is a manifest, hopefully loading live in front of your very eyes. Yes, there it is. So like I say, it is just JSON, and I wasn't telling a lie. It is JSON, and effectively what it does is describe a series of images. So if we look at the main components of this, oh yeah, sorry. Sorry, this is really poor projector quality as well. So I'm just looking at if I collapse all of the main components, what we see is a JSON file that effectively has a label. This is the name of the book. It describes itself as a manifest. It gives itself a permanent ID, and it tells you that it is a Presentation API manifest version 2. So this is in a way the preamble to all of it. What we then have is a metadata section, and this is, in my mind, great because it's completely arbitrary. So what this does is it neatly sidesteps a discussion of which metadata standards are we doing? Is it Lido? Is it CRM? Is it anything else? And in fact, just focuses on the fact this is a presentation API. What do you actually want to show to users? So the output of that is in the viewers, this thing on the right-hand side. You know, these are arbitrary key value pairs that describe your resource. So in that way, it's as flexible as possible. Where did I go? So you can add anything you like, and the viewers will just display this verbatim. There's support for multilingual entries and so on as well. So this is in a way, so we got so far, it's got its title, then it's got description about it. There's then things like the license you can link to, and a logo for your institution that may or may not be supported by the viewer. And then what the key thing is then this sequences. So this is where it goes through and you're effectively listing, so the canvases, all of these are the different individual images of a page. So going back to representation, each canvas in the sequence will be a single image here. So actually, sorry, these, I don't know if this is one image, it's double image or not, but either way, it'd either be either one of these is a single canvas. So the whole sequences part describes the ordering of all of the different images. There is then structures which allows you to indicate certain parts of that range are marked up differently. So here we can switch from a thumbnails view to an index view, and here we've marked up certain of these as, okay, that's the back cover, if I click on that, I will jump straight to the very last item there, and you can see if I toggle between thumbnails and that. So there's and what I would say is that a lot of these are optional. You know, you may, for the example of a museum image that has an X-ray view, you don't really need a sequence. There's no natural reading order. You don't necessarily need to add all of these in. So you don't need structures, maybe. So structures effectively indicate things like, you know, nested tables of contents or chapters or whatever in a series of images. Sequences is the overall number of images that are included. And then there are some less used, but again, optional and available things about services that would, for example, what is this doing? Okay, so this is the access control. This would be, again, if you've implemented the Authentication API, you could have something that describes the fact that you have to go and authenticate before you're allowed to see the high-res image. And then we've got See Also, which is a very useful way to be able to send users off to other related content that you might have already. So if you have a PDF version of that item, you might want to show them that. If you had OCR metadata that they could download separately, you might want to link to that, for example.
We really got to get out of here.
We have to get out of here, but hopefully you've all seen a manifest for real, and hopefully it's not too scary. So, thank you.